Hello and welcome to the Foxhole Cast, an All for the Game podcast. I'm Una.
I'm Nate.
I'm John.
How was your weekend, guys?
It was pretty good. Actually, no, you go first because we know what your weekend was.
I did nothing but read The Golden Raven. I woke up at 6:30 on Saturday morning.
Damn.
And I checked Nora Sakovich's Tumblr and saw that she had posted it, and then I bought it, and then I read it. I took one little nap in the middle of the day, but then I stayed up until like 4 a.m.
God.
So I woke up at around, 9:30 on Saturday, started reading. I also had to stop to get a haircut, and I had to watch the new Wallace and Gromit movie for my movie club, and I still beat you, Una. So,
No!
But yeah, I was up till 1 a.m. Saturday night finishing the book.
God. Yeah, I'm a slow reader.
No, I'm just stupidly fast. It's like how you said you like to savor every sentence.
Yes, I'm a slow reader, and one time in an English class in high school, my English teacher said, don't worry, I'm a slow reader too, we savor every word, and I have hung on to that my entire life.
I unfortunately was not able to blaze through The Golden Raven as I wanted to because I had to go home and see my stupid 10-month-old cousin who just came to the United States. He's cool. His family has 3 cats and his first word was meow. And then, what did I do? I read half of it while I was there, and then I came home last night and just sat in my bed for hours reading it, and eventually I was like, you need to get food. You need to get up and eat food.
You still read it in 2 days.
Yeah.
You still were very fast.
Yes.
Yup, we all sped through it so that we could record this Golden Raven initial reactions episode together. We will be spoiling the entire book. So for listeners who have not actually read the series, if you're one of those people who is listening to our podcast but you don't know the series, this episode will make absolutely zero sense to you because this is the 5th book in the series and it's from a different character's perspective. You don't know any of these characters yet based on where we are in the podcast.
Oh, right. Because we're on the first book in the series. This is the second trilogy. The first book in that trilogy has already come out. This is the second book in that trilogy.
Yes,
So the main 2 protagonists, one of them doesn't get introduced until the 2nd book overall, and the other one doesn't get into book 3, right? That's when Jeremy
it's at the very end of book 3.
And he has no characterization in the first
I would
series.
argue that he is characterized as a cool, chill California dude.
That is not a characterization. That is an archetype.
Wow, massive slam on book 3, Jeremy.
No, he's an archetype. He's like a great hero, but he's what are archetypes?
He is a one-dimensional characterization.
Okay. But he's not supposed to be a big...
Right. It's not it's same with Jean. That's not their role in the story. They're not supposed to be big characters. They're supposed to be name drops.
They're supposed to be just enough that you can wonder if Kevin is also attracted to men.
Yes, exactly.
Just that spice.
Yeah, so for those of you who have read The Sunshine Court, that book ended with Jean getting attacked by Grayson, Neil showing up to antagonize the FBI and put a hit out on Grayson, and Jean finding out that his little sister Elodie is dead. And the Golden Raven picks up the very next day.
I did not realize that. I was like, okay, I forgot what exactly happened at the end. I didn't realize that just yesterday he found out that his sister was dead.
Literally.
That's rough.
Literally yesterday. And I have kind of a little bit of a summary just to kind of so we can walk through the major plot beats of the book. So chapter 1 is the Trojans learning about the altercation with Grayson. Jean is all beat up, so Xavier tries to convince Jean that ibuprofen isn't contraband, which was a great scene. I loved that. And then it ends with Grayson turning up dead. Everyone cheered.
I was like, what is Xavier giving Jean? And then when it was just ibuprofen, I was like, oh boy. Oh, he's got problems.
This is one of my notes. I took a lot of notes. One of them, I was it started being downplayed over time. But one of my notes is, same song and dance of Trojans react incredulously to Raven traditions when Jean tells them about them. And Jean doesn't understand normal human norms.
Yeah.
That was a very common thing in the first book.
Yeah, that's the whole first.
It's the entire
book.
first book is just Jean and the Ravens are messed up, and Jeremy and the other Trojans are like incredulous that this is a real human being who is still alive.
Chapter 2, we switch to Jeremy's perspective. His family catches wind of Grayson's death and is like pissed off, I guess just because Jeremy is like tangentially associated with this somehow. His stepfather, Warren, like orders him to come home for dinner, and then his actual dad, his like bio dad, Trent, calls and complains that his mom, Matilda, is calling him. It's like every single member of Jeremy's family fucking sucks.
Yes.
Literally.
They are cartoonishly bigoted and evil. That was also a note.
I feel like at first they're cartoonish, and later I was like, oh, I get it.
I mean, it's not like they don't exist in real life. Obviously, people like this do. But they just double down in every single facet. Bryson, the mom, both dads.
Yeah.
Even Annalise, to an extent, is like the shallow, rich sister.
Yeah. If we're talking about archetypes, like, I would say that they are.
That's
to
true.
some extent. Like,
that was one question I still didn't get was, so the stepdad, not his grandpa, like, not Arnold Wilshire, who's a lawyer.
Yes.
Or
no,
was
he's
a lawyer.
Yeah, he's a senator now.
Okay, so their grandfather is a senator.
The step-grandfather, Arnold, is a senator.
What does his stepdad do? Does it say? Because I think I was conflating the two. They're influential and in the public sphere, so they're very concerned about image and like...
Yes. I know that his uncles, like Warren's brothers, are cops.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because they have a lot of influence in the...
Yeah, but I forget what Warren does. I think maybe he's a lawyer. I don't know.
That sounds right. I also don't remember.
And then Matilda, the mom, is a doctor. She's like a surgeon.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
Intense. Chapter 2 is also when the brother Joshua texts something to Jeremy, and Jeremy drops his phone in his coffee, and we never learn what the text said.
You're so right. We never fucking do.
Will we ever learn?
I also really, like that was an interesting reaction from Jeremy. Like, it wasn't like he, I don't know. I just thought that was, like, he didn't throw the phone or anything like that, or even, like, just, like, power it off. Nope, coffee.
Right.
It didn't even work. Like, they were able to get it back. Like, they were able to put it in rice immediately and dry it out.
Yeah.
Like, what was it just instinctual?
Yeah, I have no idea, like, because he's not angry. Like, anger would be throwing the phone across the room or something.
It's just like, Joshua's like the sibling he doesn't have a much relationship with, but like, he doesn't have, like, it's not like Bryson.
Bryson's still, like, around. It seems like Joshua is not
Bryson and his biological dad are, like, MIA now.
You mean Joshua and the bio dad?
Whatever I said. Yeah.
At some point, I might have to change out of my Palmetto State sweatshirt.
No worries.
I'm wearing my Palmetto State Foxes sweatshirt.
Well, then how will our audience hear what you're wearing?
John got me this for my birthday last year, and this is actually the first time that I've got a chance to use it.
Oh, yo.
Usually I don't wear sweatshirts, but I figured it's the occasion.
Yeah.
But it's pretty toasty in here, so I might have to change. Chapter 3, Jeremy has dinner with his family. Like we said, everyone fucking sucks except for the butler.
William.
William is like the MVP of this story.
Okay, so it might be too soon to bring it up, but just like the idea of butlers is fucking wild to me. It's just like this guy who like he lives like I was looking at YouTube videos about eunuchs today because I'm reading the Bible. and I was like, the butler is like a modern day eunuch, and we don't have to get into this right now. But that was just the whole time. I'm just like, William is great, and he has the best relationship with Jeremy over anyone in his actual family. But it's still so wild that they just have a whole other guy living in your house. I'm like, he's lived here for 26 years. Like, that's your dad.
Yeah.
That's just your dad at this point.
That's pretty common. Like, rich people will just, like, hire nannies or whatever to raise their kids.
Oh, yeah, it's very common. But, like, out of all of us, I haven't met a butler.
I have not.
I also haven't.
Like, they exist, but, like, they might as well be fictional characters.
I feel like it's more like, I know butler is like still a job, but the idea of a live-in butler who's like always at your beck and call and like technically takes breaks, but like, where's he gonna go? Does he have a family? We never find out.
Oh, yeah, I don't think we do find that out.
And like
his parents were also butlers.
Yeah.
Runs in the family. I just think it's wild that, like you said, William has the best relationship with Jeremy out of any other family members, but William is being paid to do that.
Right.
So it's not like legit family. It's like he's doing a job.
Right. I like at one point when Jeremy is like talking about something about John and he said like the blank look on William's face showed that he didn't really care one way or another. And it's like, oh yeah, he doesn't actually he doesn't have to give a shit about Exy.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not paid to give a shit about Exy.
Now, making sure the family doesn't burn the mansion down, that's in my pay grade, but I don't care about your friends.
Yeah, and then later we meet Dallas, the chef, who also seems cool.
Yeah. It's like I think they both genuinely like Jeremy, but it's just, it's weird.
It is really telling that, like, Jeremy is the favorite among the staff.
That's true.
Like, that's a major point in Jeremy's favor, in my opinion.
That's true, yeah.
Jeremy's mom tells him to start studying for the fucking LSAT because she thinks that he should go to law school and also marry Lila for political reasons. Lila?
We were talking about that. I pronounce it Layla.
I was saying Lila.
I kept going back and forth.
I also know people who have the name Lila, but it's without the A. And so like the addition of the A makes it where it's like, okay, that's obviously Layla to me.
For me, Layla is spelled like Leila.
But then there's like also like the Eric Clapton song where it's I think Lay.
And we knew a Leila in college, and her name was Leela.
That's true. I forgot about
Leela.
I think that there's probably people out there who have their name spelled like Miss Dermot, and they pronounce it different ways. Like, I'm sure it's just...
I'm seeing Layla pronunciation Arabic, Layla name pronunciation English, Spanish, Hebrew, and American.
Well, she's Arabic, so what's the Arabic pronunciation?
Her mom is Lebanese.
Yeah.
Layla.
Okay,
Layla. Yeah.
Got me on my knees, Layla.
What?
That's from the song.
That's the Eric Clapton song. Layla.
Okay, we're gonna go with Layla then.
All right.
And then Jeremy leaves his family's dinner and goes for a run and scales a 3-story building to hook up with an old high school friend. I loved that scene, actually.
I also love the backstory of that scene. Was that Leo?
Yeah,
right? Leo.
He was really interesting to me. I was like, when can we get more Leo in the mix?
And also, I think that the last name Phaser is just a really cool last
That's
name.
That's the other hookup.
Wait, I thought it was
Phaser.
Oh shit! Oh, never mind.
Foster, I think, is the Leo's last name. Foster.
Oh. See, there's so many. We've got Jeremy, we've got John, we've got Foster, we've got Phaser.
Don't forget how we're gonna get into this, but there are 2 different Derek's.
Yeah.
Yeah, God.
And they are inseparable from each other. That's not confusing at all, Nora.
Yeah, the whole time I was reading Derek and Derek, I was like, how is the fucking audiobook gonna work with this? No. Like, this audiobook.
They roll the R's for the one who has 2 R's.
That would be so funny.
Derek and Derek.
Derek. I was thinking that maybe you just lean on the K really hard, or the CK and the one with 2 R's, like Derek.
Yeah, because it's not even that it's not like it's like, okay, this is Derek A and this is Derek F. No, they're both just Derek.
They just go by
because when you're reading it, they look different.
Yeah.
But if they pronounce the same.
The audiobook is going to be a mess. He's going to have to give them very different voices, I think, to differentiate. Yeah, no, the whole, like, description of him, like, jumping up the balconies and shit, I was like, what the fuck? Like,
she has a full, like, I think 2 paragraphs detailing how he gets down from the 3rd story.
Yeah. Yeah, I was really impressed. And Leo, even though he seems like an asshole, he seems fun, and I want more of him.
Yeah, like, I feel like it sucks that he, like, accepted the car to stop seeing Jeremy and then continued fucking Jeremy. But I feel like if that happened to me, I would be like, yeah, get the car and let's keep fucking.
That's
like,
kind of what I was thinking, too. I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't you take the car?
Right.
Also, according to Kat, he has a big dick. So.
Oh, that's so true.
Oh, I thought she was talking about someone else later.
Yeah.
One of
I'm pretty sure
football players or something.
I'm pretty sure because he said that, like, Leo was texting him.
Oh, I can't remember.
I'd have to reread it. Somebody has a big dick.
Jeremy has so many hookups.
Yeah.
Okay, chapter 4, Trojans deal with press around Grayson's death. At practice, Jean tries to teach Derek with 2 R's about why his stance is bad, and then Derek in turn tries to teach him about the Trojan way of playing Exy, which kind of is a thing that Jean develops over the course of this book, is he's kind of like accepting it more. He's getting it. He's understanding why they play the way that they do. Chapter 5, practice continues. Jean tries to teach Nabil. Is that how we're pronouncing?
That's
Nabil?
I was saying Nabil, but I could be completely off.
I was thinking Nabil.
Announcenames.com.
The sweetest sound in the world is a person's own name.
Nabil.
Okay, I was right.
Nabil.
Yay,
Let's go with
nice.
Nabil.
So yeah, Jean teaches him and Derek with 1R how to score after he passes them the ball with his super XE skills from the Ravens.
I was trying to think about that because he's saying, when I pass it to you, I will set you up so you can shoot it correctly. And I was confused, like, is Jean just so much better than everybody else that he can just calculate the angles really fast so all the other Ravens just like...
The other Trojans?
No, when he was on the Ravens.
Oh, okay.
When he was on, like, they just have it, they just know that when he passes it to them, they'll be able to get it in. Or is it like all the Ravens can do that? And like, why?
Yeah, I think all the Ravens have that ability.
And I guess my second question is, why is it like advantageous to have the person who's passing it to you work out the angle instead of you, the guy that's throwing it in? Is it like faster, or is it like...
It's faster for the person who is receiving the ball to be able to score quicker. So they don't have to take the time. So the reason he was saying to Derek and Nabil was that, like, if I throw it to you and like you're able to catch it like when you're able to shoot, you don't have to take the time to like maneuver into a shooting position as much. And that will give your defender less time to catch up and block you.
Nice.
So he's able to do that. And like, and especially if he's able to do it quicker, that makes it easier for them to shoot quicker and easier to score quicker and harder to stop.
Nice. Okay, that makes sense.
So it's all about cutting out like the milliseconds, and the Ravens are really good at that.
Nice.
Thank you, sports consultant.
Sports consultant over here.
And then Jean acquires a freshman devotee named Tanner.
I love Tanner.
I also
Tanner's
love Tanner.
my new favorite character.
And Tanner asks to be taught Raven precision drills, which is what Kevin teaches Neil in
night practices
in the first 3 books.
I love how this is again maybe a sign how the Trojans are like just the most like far more mentally stable compared to both the Ravens and the Foxes. That Jeremy's like, let's make sure the coach signs off on this before we start doing this.
Oh yeah, the extra practices.
They're like, let's make sure first off that we have time to do this, but also that it's safe for us to do this.
I figured that it was a matter of like, are they allowed to use the stadium? Like, are they allowed to... Because in Foxhole Court, Wymack just gives Neil and Kevin keys because he knows that they're fucking obsessed and they need access to the court at all times. So they can just go whenever they want. But I don't think that the Trojans are like that. I think everyone just shows up at the appropriate time for practice.
That makes sense because there's so many more of them and it's like more official over there.
Yeah.
That's true.
But I think maybe you could be right of like, is it okay that we are working ourselves harder to do these extra practices?
With Jean,
yeah. That's true.
I do like when he tries to call Kevin later and say, stop doing night practices. Because the whole first series, I was like, guys, sleeping at night also helps you get better at sports.
Yeah.
And finally, someone is saying it.
Yeah, Jeremy calls Kevin and is like, stop killing yourself.
Does Kevin actually answer, or does he just like say no?
Yeah, I think we don't like hear that conversation, but yes, I think Kevin answers and is like not concerned at all. And Jeremy is like, well, I wonder if I could talk to Neil about it or something.
He calls Neil and Neil doesn't pick up the phone.
Oh, that's right.
I love the outsider perspective of Neil being just an instigator.
Right.
He's called like the eternal instigator or something at one point. It's like, He really is. He just loves stirring the pot.
God, don't even get me started on Neil. I'm like, every time.
He is a menace in this. Every time he shows up, he's causing trouble.
Yeah, but like, he was like that in the first series. We just like didn't see it from the outside perspective.
Exactly. Now we see the havoc he wreaks.
I can't wait to get to that part later. Oh yeah, after practice, Cody, Pat, and Ananya, they take Jean on a tour of campus and then to dinner, which goes very poorly because of Jean's obsession with nutrition.
Poor Ananya, this must seem borderline racist.
Yeah,
I know, knowing John's perspective, it's different. But I don't know, if you take someone to an Indian restaurant and like this is how they react.
Yeah, he's like, none of this is edible. Yeah, that's fucking rude.
It's pretty darn questionable.
It's pretty rude.
I was glad that he texted Cody later and said it was good. I'm like,
yeah,
I hope Cody passed that on.
Yeah.
Also, the whole Cody, Pat, Ananya throuple situationship is still in full blown.
Yeah, it's still happening.
Never resolved. I wonder if it will be.
I think it will.
It's going to be. I'm wondering which way it's going to go.
I feel like
I feel like it will.
I hope they get together in the 3rd book. I love Cody so much.
They did.
One of my notes is I ship Jean Cody and Jean Tana more than Jean Jeremy. And that's going to give me so much hate.
My God.
I know that is not a popular opinion, but I don't really think Jean Jeremy is the top ship in the books.
You had mentioned this to me before, and I think that, like, we should spend a solid hour just, like, trying to convince you that
I think it's main character
Jean.
syndrome. They're like, oh, they're the main characters. They got to get together. I don't know.
I was thinking, like, the same with the Foxhole Court, like, it's nothing, like, starting out, you don't really know, like, you know it's going to be a romance, but it's not, like, really, it doesn't really start, like, it's debatable how obvious it is that Neil and Andrew are going to get together, unless you know that, yeah, it's like Neil and Andrew. And this one, yeah, you know they're going to get together because they have the dual POVs, but it's, again, it's not, like, nothing on the back cover says, like, Jean is so captivated by this mysterious guy.
I think it's a similar, to me it feels like, what if it had been Neil and Kevin as the ship in the Foxhole Court?
Because when I first read it in high school, I thought maybe Neil and Kevin would get together.
But I don't think that would have been better than what we got, which is Neil and Andrew.
Right.
I think Neil and Andrew is better. I feel like it's the same thing. I'd rather Jean and Cody get together. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's obviously going to be Jean and Jeremy. I don't foresee any other outcome for the third book besides Jean and Jeremy.
Yeah,
but I think it's not the top ship.
Yeah. What you don't understand is that people have been shipping Jeremy and Jean for over a decade already.
Oh, I believe it. Which is an absurd ship based on two characters who never interact and have a combined 10 pages of count.
Oh my God.
But I get it.
But the possibilities are endless. Like, okay, at the end of Kingsmen, we did not have any other content for so long. And people would just be like, oh my God, Jean is like off in California having the time of his life with Jeremy. And then Nora Sakovich rolls up and is like, hey, what if I wrote that? And everyone's losing their minds, and I'm one of them. Even if I didn't care about Jeremy and Jean back when I read Kingsmen, I like got it, and now I'm like seeing that come to fruition. So I'm for it.
Yeah, I like it because, like, I feel like Jean Tanner and Jean Cody might be like good relationships, but Tanner and Cody do not have the inner pain and torture that Jeremy has, and he and Jean can like clash together like icebergs. I don't know what are things that fall
and that's
together.
Hot.
Yes, that's a new sex thing.
I think Tanner, I don't ship with Jean. Tanner seems more of like a little kid. Like Jean should be his mentor type of relationship. Like the way that Tanner is written just seems so like childish to me. So he seems more of like a student.
Although ironically, they're closer in age than Jean and Jeremy are.
Oh, that's so true.
Right.
I always forget.
Yeah.
What's really wild is that Lucas is younger than Jean.
No, Jean is younger than Lucas.
Yes, that's what I meant.
And Lucas points that out at some point.
Right.
And it's like heartbroken.
Because it's after everything about Grayson had fully come out.
That's like later in the book. I forget when exactly. But Lucas, it like occurs to him. I think it's after the interview. It's
after the interview when it's like revealed just how old Jean actually is.
Yeah, everyone realizes that he's 19, and Lucas like realizes how young Jean would have been at the Ravens. Which is wild. Like, Lucas is older than Jean, but I think of Lucas as like
Lucas seems like the
younger kid,
right? Because he didn't have to like grow up in the same way that Jean did, where Jean can act more mature, even if he's not necessarily like better off in his head.
He's been forced to mature quickly.
Yeah, like a forced rhubarb.
What?
I read about this on Tumblr. It's rhubarb. You can make it grow really fast if you like put it in the dark, because it'll grow really fast to like try to get to the light. And like you can actually like they record it and you can hear it growing. So that was what was happening with Jean. He was in the dark.
That's Jean.
Yeah, forced to grow.
Jean is a rhubarb.
Yeah.
I saw the rhubarb grow.
Stupid.
Forced rhubarb motif. Let's go. I need some. We need to make some freaking gift sets or whatever.
Okay, so chapter 6 is Jeremy's POV again. They wake up and have to explain the 4th of July to Jean because he has never celebrated holidays. He never holidays off as a Raven, and he's like, so no practice. Like he's like, so we're not practicing today. Like, love that.
And then it takes a dip into the tragic where he also doesn't even know his birthday.
Dude, that part was like,
not even that he doesn't celebrate it, he doesn't know it.
He literally doesn't know it.
And he doesn't really care either.
Yeah, he doesn't realize how sad that is. But it also makes sense, like, I was thinking about how someone pointed out that Kevin turns 21 in The Kingsmen.
Oh, yeah.
And no one points it out. And it's probably just because he never, like...
He never talks about it.
He never talks about it, and he's never celebrated it.
Right.
Anyway, Sunshine Court, Golden Raven. So Kat has to call a coach to look up Jean's file, and we learn that he's a Scorpio, just like the Twinyards.
Because I did not think about that at all. Did you, like, look it up, or did you just know?
Yeah. Well, I knew that Aaron and Andrew were Scorpios, and I was like, okay, that probably means Jean is a Scorpio, so I looked it up to make sure, but It makes so much sense.
That tracks. That makes sense.
The 4 of them go to Jeremy's house, get some food for their day at the beach. There's a scene where Jean wanders off into the house and sees a picture of Noah, the dead brother. And Jeremy explains that he died 4 years ago, but we don't get any of the backstory yet.
And they only have that one picture of him, which is fucking nuts.
That's wild, right?
Yeah.
God. And then they have a beach day, and
which was on the bingo card.
Yes, the beach scene that was on our bingo card. And the funniest part is when Xavier explains his top surgery to Jean, like, because he thought it was heart surgery. He had his scars from heart surgery, and Jean just, like, had zero clue.
I love that. Jean just like, why would that matter to me? And Xavier's like, you rock.
As long as you're healthy to play, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That is one of the things, like, this is not a realistic series. However, I was reminded at a couple of different points. This takes place in, like, the mid to late 2000s.
It's 2007 right now.
2007.
Yeah.
I had to keep remembering that.
There is a trans college athlete on a nationally ranked team.
Yeah.
That's true.
This was, I think, maybe before even Proposition 8 was a thing in California. I don't think this would have made national news and been a massive controversy for USC.
Remind us what Proposition 8 is.
That was about gay couples and marriage. So it's tangentially related. But I'm saying even 17 years ago, trans issues were so far removed from the bad place they are in now.
Yes.
Like, it was like unacceptable for this to be like a thing for athletes. Like, that just, it truly did not happen. And they're just treating it very casually, which is a great mindset to have.
Yeah.
But then they also, if they're talking about, like, the Jason Bourne movies, this is not supposed to be that far removed socially from what we were, like, actually in 2007.
Yeah.
USA.
Like,
so this seemed a little idyllic to me.
In some ways, the series is very much dated to 2006, 2007. Like, the technology, the fact that Jeremy is listening to his French lessons on CDs.
That was
hilarious. Portable CD player.
I did not even think about that. I was just like, yeah, of course.
Yeah, and then
they use Skype instead of Zoom.
Oh my god, Skype.
That was like, that's a good detail. I was like, it would have been so easy to just forget that and just make it a Zoom call instead. But Zoom didn't exist then. It was all Skype.
God, remember Skype? Yeah, and, like, William doesn't, like, know. He's, like, saying, like, oh, you could take Skype lessons, but he doesn't really know what Skype is, it sounds like. Yeah, and some of the homophobia that we learn about later is, like, on brand for the era.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right that the trans characters are maybe a little bit more, like...
I feel like in California, I didn't think about the college athlete aspect, but I feel like that people are willing to, like, be like, oh, it's chill that you're trans, like, as his friends and as Cody's friends was, like, I feel like that would...
But I think, like, if he was out about that like, anybody outside of his friends, like, if he's, like, on... Because what it seems like is, like, he transitioned very recently, right?
Right.
I guess it's also complicated by the fact that it's a co-ed sport, though, and that just doesn't exist in real life.
Right, that's true.
Athletes.
Yeah, that's also
So
true.
I guess that's one maybe why... Because that just adds an entire dimension that wasn't a thing. Because, like, all other sports at the college level are like, okay, you have to have men and you have to have men, and nothing crossing over, nothing in between. But this doesn't have that. So I guess if
Right.
it existed, people would be like, well, I guess it doesn't matter.
And the
'cause
Trojans have like a co-ed locker room
Yeah.
or something.
that's
Yeah, they do.
So I guess maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's, I had completely forgotten that it's a co-ed sport in general.
I just brush it off as like the Trojans are this like bastion of, I don't know, safety, solidarity, like, yeah.
And one thing I was thinking, because Coach Riemann is later revealed to be gay, and I think I saw a post suggesting, like, it was joking, but like that he collects gay athletes. I'm like, maybe he for real does. Like, maybe he's just like, because they mentioned that like there's people on the team who are like kind of homophobic figuring it out, but it seems like there's like a lot of gay people, and it's like,
There's so many.
yeah.
That was another one of my notes, was that like, even the coach is gay. I can probably count on one hand the amount of coaches, and I don't even know any of them. I'm just assuming that there's not a lot of gay coaches in college sports.
Coach.
So good. Coach.
I was
So,
thinking like
good for Coach. How do you pronounce Riemann?
Riemann.
Riemann. Good for Coach Riemann.
I think that's how the audiobook narrator pronounces it in The Kingsman.
Oh, damn.
I forgot he even showed up there.
It's it might be in
Sunshine Court.
the audiobook isn't out for Sunshine Court yet. It might be in Raven King, because when Andrew goes to the hospital to get off his meds, some of the XE people are like, you don't have enough players to play XE. And then Coach Riemann is like a supporter of like,
Right.
the Foxes should be able to finish
That's
the season.
right.
So he's mentioned.
Yeah. Okay. TLDR. Xavier's trans, and Jean is totally cool with it, which is awesome. And
Yeah.
they're at the beach.
That was a fun scene. And then they go see the fireworks.
Yes.
That was a really beautiful scene. I wished it was longer. It felt kind of rushed. I wanted it to be like more of a thing, but I don't know. I guess what we got was fine.
We got the classic looking at something, oh, it's so beautiful, and the other person is looking at them. Yeah.
Yes.
And when Jeremy like leans really close, when John leans really close to Jeremy's ear, and Jeremy
That's right.
thinks he's gonna kiss him, and then he's asking what the word is for firework, or he's asking what some word is.
Yeah.
He doesn't remember what the word is for fireworks in
Nice.
English, which is, that's a nice detail.
Love the whole like, oh, it's really loud. I need to like
Mhm,
whisper in your ear
mhm.
right now. Yeah.
We need to use my tongue for better like conduction.
God.
Like a tin can and a string.
Oh, dear Lord. Okay, and then the chapter ends with Jean teaching his raven drills to his new freshman ducklings.
His ducklings.
Chapter 7, we have Lucas returning after going home for a bit after Grayson's death, and he's avoiding Jean. And then Jean keeps teaching raven drills, but he doesn't have a lot of patience for his students, but he manages to like rein himself in before lashing out at
He
them.
almost, like, he's really considering hitting Tana with the racket.
Yeah,
and then,
Jeremy is
stops
like
him.
watching him through the court walls. Yeah, and he's like, oh.
But
But
he controls himself.
he reins himself in, yeah. And then Jeremy is trying to study for the LSAT, but he much prefers studying French because he's decided to learn French for Jean's sake.
And I love another word I need to look up. Marseilles.
It's
Marseille.
Marseille.
Oh, thank God. Okay, Marseille. He's asking. He wants to learn it specifically with the Marseille accent, and Jean says no one will take you seriously if you speak with the Marseille accent, which implies that nobody takes Jean seriously when he talks. And I think that's great.
I think that might be like Jean is saying, like, no other French speakers will
That-
take you seriously. It's like
Yeah.
if you learn to speak, if you were French and you
Okay.
learn to speak English with a Southern accent.
That's true. But some people like, what was there? Some post or something that like somebody was talking about they learned Japanese from like watching old films, and their teacher was like, "You're good, but you need to like change some of your vocabulary because you sound like a gangster."
That's funny. I haven't heard that.
I guess if you like learn to speak Spanish with like a Barcelonan accent, maybe I don't know. Though.
Right.
But I still feel like I'd still be like, oh, you're speaking Spanish. That's cool.
Yeah.
Right.
It hadn't occurred to me that there's different accents for French, but like obviously
Right.
there is.
No, every time a different country has accents, I'm like, oh my God, you guys also have a South? I get so excited for no reason.
Yeah, no, like I knew that there was a difference between like Canadian French and like France
Mhm.
French and
Cajun
Louisiana
French,
French.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually.
But like I didn't think that within France there were like different accents. But like obviously there are. That makes sense. I just didn't know that there was a connotation of like twanginess or like
Right?
there's like a not properness associated with the Marseille accent.
I bet it's probably like it doesn't seem as obvious if you don't speak French.
Right.
Like to us, like it would be like, okay, those like I can hear the difference, but it doesn't seem like one of them is more proper
Yeah.
than the other. But for them to like, oh no, this is the proper way.
Yeah. This is like when I was watching Scum for the first time and Eva is like speaking with a Bergen accent, but like we can't tell
Right.
until they point it out in the show that she has an accent, because like it all just sounds like Norwegian to us.
Right.
But then when I started learning Norwegian, I could like tell that her accent was different. I'm like, oh my god, she actually is like, she sounds way different.
That's cool.
Like I hadn't realized.
That's a big thing in Doctor Who, I know, is that like, because for a long time, almost all of the doctors all had what was called like received pronunciation,
Yes.
which is like the very proper British accent. And then a few doctors in a row did not. And so like that was like David Tennant originally wanted to audition to be Scottish like he is, but they're like, no, we've had too many people not speak in received pronunciation. We need you to speak in received pronunciation.
Damn.
So it's going to be like too much of a controversy, because that's
God. Wow, that is such a British
Yeah.
controversy to have.
yeah.
Aaron's trial starts.
Oh, right.
Yes.
And various foxes are called on to testify. Eventually he's cleared of all charges, but watching those scenes of like the news broadcasts of like outside the courthouse, oh my god.
There's the one shot they describe where like they're on the stairs and like Kevin's at one end of the stairwell and Andrew's at the other.
Andrew's coming out and Kevin going into
up,
the court.
and Neil's like in between
Yeah.
them. I'm like, oof.
Oh my
Right.
god. I can just imagine, like, I assume that Neil figured, like, Kevin would need him more, and Andrew probably doesn't want to talk to people after that. I wonder if we're gonna ever get any, like, extra content about...
Ooh.
I don't know if Nora Sakovich is, like, done with extra content as a concept, but I would love to get some Fox, Aaron's trial stuff going on. And it says Nikki, like, fights his parents outside the courthouse. Like,
That's
hi,
great.
Lola.
Do you have opinions?
There were like a few details that like didn't make any sense from Jeremy's perspective, because he wouldn't know the foxes, but like from our perspective, we understand the significance of like Caitlin doesn't come on the day that Andrew is there, but then she
Right.
comes every day after.
Yep.
And it's like these little tiny details that were like, oh, I know what that means. But Jeremy just has no context for that.
I also love he constantly is trying to like be supportive for the foxes, but has no freaking idea how. Like he
Right.
has no idea what he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
So he just keeps reaching out, like saying, "Hope the trial goes well."
Yeah.
and then like just like, well, nothing else I can do, I guess.
I love when, I think it's Kat suggests that Jeremy just text Kevin like, hope your teammate gets acquitted, XOXO. I love that.
And I love that Kevin just texts back like, they have not been able to focus. I can't wait until this thing is done so we can get back to work.
Yeah, literally.
They're barely tolerable. I feel like, I guess this is changing the subject, but I feel like this is the first book where I feel like I really realized like, oh, Kevin's pretty fucked up. Like in the first trilogy, it was like he's obviously like very anxious and the whole situation is like active and he has a lot to be anxious about. But now things have calmed down and it's like, and he's still weird.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh shit, he has some healing to do.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, it's like later on, Jeremy, or is it Jeremy? I think it's John actually, who says something about how like Kevin doesn't even like attempt to cope with everything that's happened to him. He just kind of keeps dismissing it. And it's like he never has to come to terms with it because he's just always, that's why he puts so much of his life into Exy,
Right.
because it's a way of avoiding everything else.
Yeah.
Whereas like Jean doesn't really do that. Like Exy is obviously a massive obsession for him. Like it's a huge part of his life, but he also deals with a lot, and he does deal with it. He doesn't deal with it well, but he deals with it.
I think that this is partly because Jean's new friends are like normal human beings.
That's
like
true.
they have their own issues and, you know, dark backstories, but they're relatively like realistic. But then Kevin's friends are Neil and Andrew, who have the most twisted views of the world. Like
Kevin has monsters, Jean has floozies.
Exactly. So there's no one drawing Kevin like into the real world. They're just like they're all in their little twisted little world.
Right.
Together. So Coach Riemann pulls Jean and Jeremy out of practice to tell them that the Ravens had Jean's Ravenmobile delivered to the court.
I need to share. So as soon as this showed up, I don't know why, but I was like, car bomb. It's going to be a car bomb.
I also thought that though.
Okay, good.
When the delivery person was like, you need to sign this paper, I was like, are you gonna read what you're signing, bro? Like, I thought it was gonna be some sort of weird trick.
Oh, shit. No, I thought it was going to be like they get the car and then Coach Riemann's going to drive it to his house and it explodes and it kills Coach Riemann, who's so nice, and it's technically Jean's fault, but it's not his fault. By the end of the book, I was kind of disappointed.
It does feel weird for the Ravens to do just such a like on the nose bribery. It makes it. They explain that it's like it's the new coach, and it's like maybe he doesn't have as like he's more just ineffective, not twisted like Moriyama was. But yeah, I was also surprised that it was just that.
Yeah, like it actually did end up just being a car. Right. Like I thought there was going to be some weird twist to it. Like I was bracing myself for that.
I was really looking forward to it. I was like when their house burned down, I was like, oh, and they haven't even gotten to the part where the car exploded.
You were ready.
I was really ready. Next book, it could still any minute.
They haven't sold it yet, have they?
No, they did.
They did to get the motors. That's how they got the motorcycles.
Yeah. All right, chapter 8, Jeremy picks up Kevin and Andrew from the airport. And the way that the narration describes Kevin walking up, like Jeremy can't see who's with him at first. And I was like, oh my God, who's it going to be? Like I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, oh my God, it's going to be Andrew. It's going to be Neil. Like which one? And it ends up being Andrew, which I love because Neil got his visit last book. Right. So I'm very happy that Kevin and Andrew got to have their visit this book.
Well, it's the part where like Andrew, like they're trying to drink stuff in the house, and Andrew just won't drink anything that they give him.
Yeah, God.
I mean, and also just Jean, like, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself, but Jean like pouring out Kevin's vodka reminded me of like when we took Dare in 5th grade, and this kid like went home and like took his dad's beer out of his hand and poured it down the drain.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, because he was fired up.
Yeah, an asshole kid.
No, he was like
we got a morality play.
Yeah,
that's exactly what Jean is to Kevin. On the car ride, Jeremy, I was about to do my soft J. On the car ride, Jeremy reveals that Neil was here visiting Jean in June, which Andrew and Kevin didn't know about, and I was so surprised by this. But then I was like, oh my God, it makes so much sense that he would just kind of like let that slide. Like, just like...
In this way, it doesn't concern them in Neil's mind. Like, this is about the FBI investigation. It has nothing to do with the Foxes.
True.
Right. Of course that little liar is gonna... Dude, Andrew must be pissed, though. Like, as soon as that got revealed, I was like, Andrew is probably seething on the inside.
Love
but Neil didn't tell him where he was. Hey, it's Editing Una. Since recording, I've actually been reading some analysis by people who think that Andrew actually wouldn't care that Neil lied by omission about where he was. I'm interested in hearing what other people think, because I assumed that Andrew would want to know where Neil was in case something bad happened and Andrew needed to, like, get to him or something. But maybe I'm not taking into account how their relationship has changed since the end of The Kingsmen. So yeah, let us know what you think about it. Now back to Una, Nate, and John from the past. Kevin and Jean reunite in a cold and detached manner, to say the least. But Jeremy realizes Jean used to have / still has a crush on Kevin. Mm-hmm. I love that scene as well, when Kevin is like getting Jean to like try on the shirts for the interview.
Oh yeah.
And Jeremy is like watching from the doorway and he's like clocking the crush from across the room.
That was one of my notes that I had shared. Like I was confused a bit just by how much preoccupation Jeremy has on Jean's sexuality. Like, he really just did a lot of commentary on it. Of course. But, like, I think it's been pretty well established Jean likes men as well as women. Yeah. So I'm confused why he, like, it's not, this one's not even the specific one because it's about, like, Kevin. But, like, he talks about it a lot, about, like, noticing how Jean, like, is looking after Layla.
Yeah,
and like looking at it
because Jeremy is interested. Like,
he's interested, but like, what are these observations adding that like make him more interested? Like, it just seems like
I think it's like just like
it's like a reminder that Jeremy's bi or Jean's bi.
Yeah, I think Jeremy is just like
I thought it was jealousy. Like more later in the book, like he doesn't want to. Like Jean, when he thinks about Jeremy, he's just like, we don't need to think about that right now. But Jeremy's always like, so interesting.
Is that your Jeremy voice?
Yeah. And I think he also just thinks it's cute how obvious Jean is when he has a crush on somebody.
Yeah, that's also what I got to. Like when Jean gets flustered over Layla.
Yeah, in the bathing suit.
Yeah, Jeremy is just like, oh, that's so funny. Like, you're so, like, obvious.
This interaction does also lead to my favorite running gag, which is that Kevin's nickname apparently is like the Queen of the U.S. Court.
I love that part.
Because like everyone calls him that. It's not just like Jeremy. Like I think Layla and Kat also like when he first walks in, they're like, "Hey, Queen."
Yeah, and Jean I think calls him that to his face
that's
as
good.
well.
Like,
I
it's just
highlighted like every time that happens.
And it's very funny to me that like one of the only established straight characters is the Queen.
Right. That's so good, and they never acknowledge it either.
No, it's never like, oh, this is an inside joke.
They
No,
never make a joke about
He's just the Queen.
I think Kevin is queer.
I mean, I would agree, but the book seems to not agree with us.
No,
there.
I think that it's there. I could make the argument. I think there's textual evidence.
That can also be a discussion for a future episode.
That can be a whole
probably.
other episode. Jean shows Kevin that he's learning how to cook, which I thought was a really cute scene. Just in general, the fact that Jean is learning to cook is great.
Yeah.
I love that for him. Then Jeremy and Kevin have a discussion about the abuse that went on in the nest, which was pretty heartbreaking. Yeah. Chapter 9, we've got Jean, Kevin, Jeremy, and Andrew going to the station for the interview. Before they leave, though, Jean and Kevin fight about Kevin's drinking, which I just think is so funny that throughout all of Sunshine Court and Golden Raven, Jean is telling everyone around him to stop doing substances. He's just like so anti like cigarettes, alcohol, drug. He's so straight edge.
But I feel like he's right. Like especially for Kevin, who's like so dedicated to Exius. Like, bro, like this is gonna fuck you up. Like
Kevin's borderline alcoholic.
I think he is an alcoholic.
I think he is probably too. But like,
I was thinking about because in the nest they weren't allowed to drink alcohol. We also know that like Coach Wymack, his dad, is like also drinks a lot.
That's
so like
true.
Kevin's already like genetically prone, and then he just emerges from the nest. He gets to drink alcohol for the first time. He's like, awesome, I don't have to feel the pain anymore.
Yeah.
And just that's rough. Like
exactly.
It's not good.
Yeah. But I think that Jean's, I mean, maybe now it's moving towards more like the way that, well, I don't know. My thought process is like Jean is so adamant about being like anti-substance as a result of his Raven conditioning.
Right.
But I don't know if I like want him in the third book to like give that up, or if I want him to maintain that. Because in the Foxhole Court, Neil doesn't drink because he's afraid of losing control.
Right.
And there are instances when Kevin like offers to watch him so that Neil can drink if he wants, and they're always trying to get him to drink at Eden's Twilight. But then he doesn't drink until the last book when they're at the cabin, and I think Andrew like pours him a drink.
Oh yes, yeah.
But that's kind of a sign of Neil like letting go, not being so paranoid, like being comfortable with his teammates and friends that he's around, and he's like more comfortable with that. So that's a sign of him like healing, but I'm not sure if that would be the same for Jean.
Yeah.
I think a good sign of healing for Jean would be like if someone offers him and he just says no thank you. Like not that he like accepting it. I agree. I don't think that's necessarily the right move for him, but I like the idea of him like being like less immediately offended that anyone's offering him alcohol or that anyone else is partaking in it either. Like just saying that's not for me.
Yeah, like his attitude towards Kevin is not actually helpful.
Right.
It is hilarious though.
Yeah, it is. They go to the interview, and it's not quite as dramatic as the one with Kathy Ferdinand in the first book, but it does not go well at all. Hannah asks way too many questions about Rico, Zane, and Grayson, and then she drops the bomb that Jean's parents just got arrested by Interpol, which I was not expecting.
No. Also, I just need to interject. I realized halfway through reading this that every time they've mentioned John's parents, I pictured the Thenardiers from Les Mis. Hang on, I have the pic. I have
Is that like the brothel owners?
Yeah, the shitty innkeepers.
the comedic relief.
Yes, and specifically
Sacha Baron Cohen and Helena Bonham Carter.
Yeah, every time I was just like this, and like a little bit of them dancing on the stage and play in my head.
That's so funny.
Did you imagine Elodie as Cosette?
No, I considered this. Elodie is Eponine and Jean is Cosette, because Cosette gets
Jean is Cosette.
This is so good. Please go on.
That's
Just talking.
Because Eponine is forced to stay with her parents, and like she's not taken from her situation. She dies. Cosette is rescued by Jean Valjean, and similarly, Raven Jean is taken away from his situation with his parents, and he eventually is rescued by somebody who like actually wants to help him, and he like gets
So is Jeremy the Eddie Redmayne character who dates Cosette?
I guess.
Marius?
Yeah,
Marius. I can't remember his character's name.
Who's the guy that's played by the hot guy?
There's so many.
Fucking what's his name? The guy who plays Newt in
Yeah, he just said his name.
Wait, no, I thought that was
Eddie Redmayne.
Oh.
You mean Newt from Fantastic Beasts? Yeah, that's Eddie Redmayne.
Oh wait,
Yeah,
okay. There's another also hot guy. Okay, sick. And lots of hot guys. You're right. But yeah, I think the Jean Cosette parallel should be discussed.
I had never considered that. That's so good.
I was thinking a lot today. I was just like, I would think, and then I'm like, no, I already think about that. I need to think about a different part. I would think about it.
That's awesome. Jean and Kevin actually switched to Japanese to avoid being understood by the French interpreter at the station, which I also was not expecting. I had remembered that Jean mentioned that he spoke a third language other than English and French.
Because he said English was his third language.
Yes. And they were trying to guess his second language earlier in the book.
Oh, right.
But they were guessing like other European languages, I think. And then I knew that Kevin spoke Japanese because he speaks it in the Foxhole Court series.
Then Neil's trilingual because he also speaks German.
Neil's got French, German, and English, yeah, but he doesn't have Japanese. So
he doesn't?
Yeah, Neil doesn't speak Japanese.
He did have so only Kevin and Jean speak Japanese?
Yes. Because of Rico. Yeah, but they have to speak it, even though it's neither of their native languages. They have to speak it to avoid being understood by the French interpreter. I love that when they switch to Japanese and the interpreter is like, oh, that's not French.
Yeah.
Like, very good, Amber.
I also love when like they pull up the article and John's like, I can't read, and they're like, don't worry, we translated into French, or we got the French one.
Got it in France. Yeah, in French. Oh, man. Oh, yeah, the detail about Jean not really being able to read English that well or that fast.
Yeah.
That was another thing that I didn't know about or hadn't considered before.
Because he had to take like a crash course in English over the course of like 1 year, they say.
Yeah.
So like they're focusing on audio instead of written.
Yeah, which is rough.
Yeah. And they mentioned because John's mom started teaching him Japanese and English, but she wasn't allowed to start till a certain age, which I think if you know that you're gonna be selling your child to a place where he's going to need to know multiple languages, start him young while he's still got that neuroplasticity. Like, come on.
Yeah, I'm forgetting the actual backstory of like...
He started learning Japanese in France.
Yes, from a tutor when they knew that he was going to be dealing with the Moriyamas.
And then I think the Moriyamas didn't allow him to learn English until some point. It said he wasn't allowed to learn English until some point.
No, he wasn't allowed to speak French in the nest. He was forced to learn English.
Okay.
And that's why Kevin speaks French, is because he wanted to learn from Jean.
Yes.
But he started learning English from a tutor also in France, I think.
Yeah, I think like later than he was learning Japanese.
Yes.
How did Neil learn French?
He and his mom lived in France, I think.
That's what it was. Because I remember the German.
Yeah, they
but I don't
know
how
German from living in Germany. Neil just picked it up naturally.
Picked it up.
He never got any fancy tutors. Oh my god, and then Andrew and Jean have the scene outside in the middle of the interview, and Jean is like having a panic attack, and Andrew just like thumps him on the back to get him to start breathing again, and it might be my favorite scene in the whole book, honestly.
Doesn't he just say stop it?
Yeah.
Just says stop it. And then also confronts him about the history like the Raven history.
Yeah, because he picks up on from Jean's reaction to Hannah talking about Grayson, Andrew susses out what that is all about, and oh my god, that whole conversation I could talk about forever and ever.
I know he asked if Grayson did anything to Neil.
Yeah.
When Neil was at the
nest
over the break.
Yeah, I really wasn't expecting like an Andrew and Jean, not a friendship, but like a
camaraderie,
understanding.
Yeah, just like that was a really. I wouldn't have put those two characters together. Like, I wouldn't have thought that they had any, similarities, but they do. They're very similar.
Jean brings up how Andrew also is a victim of abuse and, like, points out the scars under his wristband.
That's right. I didn't get that until I was just rereading that scene earlier today.
Yeah.
It's going to be a million years until we get to actually like go through these chapters in detail, but like I can't wait.
Yes, same.
Chapter 10, back at the house, Jean is forced to explain his like mobster parents to his roommates, and Kevin gets spectacularly drunk. And Kevin and Jean almost have like a legitimate conversation about Rico. Like they're so close. Like that's another scene that I really love. But then Bryson shows up at the house, and Jean fucking slams him into the windshield of Layla's car, which incredible.
That was the one thing. At one point, Jean calls Bryson a half-baked baguette, which is like the most stereotypically French thing she could have had him say. And it's the only time it bleeds into stereotype, but I kind of love it.
I thought that was the stupidest insult for like the gravity of that scene.
Yes, it seems very out of place, and that's why it made me laugh.
Yeah,
because it doesn't seem like something Jean would say. Jean would cut to the core more.
Because Jean has such good insults for everyone else.
Yes,
like especially for Neil, he has like a bunch of really good insults that I highlighted. But like the whole like baguette thing, I was like, get out of here! Right. Like that's not good.
I don't know, what if he called him an overgrown fly on the windshield or something? Like, you could have been a bit more clever.
Yeah, I feel like Jean has just done so much better with his insults that one was, like, really weak. Chapter 11, at Jeremy's parents' house, Annalise antagonizes him, and we learn that their mom has hid his passport, social security card, and birth certificate so that he doesn't have them.
That stressed me. Yeah.
I will say, you are an adult. That seems like you could pursue legal action.
Yeah.
But when you're dead, when your like family owns the city.
That's true, because his stepdad's got all this stuff. But you got an argument there.
I think he could, but then they would stop paying for his. I was thinking about this. They would probably stop paying for his school.
Doesn't he have an Exie? Can't he?
He definitely
have an Exie scholarship.
Also, it's his last year, isn't it?
Yeah, but I don't think he would have a scholarship because his parents have so much money. He probably couldn't get one.
Oh,
because
even if he says like I'm cut off from my parents.
I mean, would he would need? I think you need them to fill out specific forms, like saying, like I've heard about this. Like you need them to fill out forms saying that they won't support you, and if your parents don't do, it's fucked up.
Oh, okay, it's fucked up.
Yeah,
June once the season is over,
right? But yeah, he's got to wait till
report that shit.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I guess if you need to keep playing, then keep quiet on it for now. But as soon as you're able to get that info to the police.
I was thinking, but like, I think there's ways you can like apply for new ones of those things.
Yeah.
But even though there's still places that'll be like, no, we need the original birth certificate, not the copy.
That's true.
But yeah, that was, I feel like that.
Yeah, that was like a step beyond.
It makes sense, but I'm like, that's like just actually, like, that's not even.
Yeah, like the whole Jeremy having to like keep receipts for everything he buys so that he can explain what he's spending his money on his parents. Like, I guess I get that a little bit because it's fucked up.
Right.
But it is his parents' money, so I understand where they're coming from that angle. But like, there is no reason that they should be hiding his like documents from him. Like that is just like, you are trying to control him. You are trying to keep him in this house under your control. There's no excuse for that.
No, it's actually evil.
And even with the money, like he's old enough that he could have his own bank account, but he doesn't. And it's either because he doesn't have his own money or because he technically, maybe it is his bank account in name, but his parents really like control.
I think it's he's not allowed by his parents to have
that makes sense.
Account.
I think he says at one point that Bryson and him share an account that their parents control.
Also, because he has to be a college athlete, he doesn't have another job.
Yeah, he can't have.
He doesn't have any income coming in, so that's why. Like, even if he wanted to open up an account, like he can't put anything in it.
That's true. I feel like in the first book, I was like, okay, Jeremy's got something going on. I'm excited to see what's simmering underneath that placid surface. And now I'm like, excellent. Okay. I mean, it's fucked up. I'm surprised by the level of like fucked up that his family is, but I'm gratified.
Yes. I'm also wondering, that's probably not even at the forefront of his parents' like minds in controlling him. If he goes pro in Exie, that's income that he gets to control.
Right.
If he goes, like, if he forgoes that and goes to law school for another 4 years, he's still under their thumb.
Oh, true.
I don't even think that's what they're thinking about, but it's just another aspect of, like, he's being forced to take the LSATs even though he doesn't really want to.
Yeah.
And that would be forcing him further into kind of their servitude.
Right.
Or at least just not being able to live his own life.
Yeah. It's a fucking drive back every night. That sucks.
Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah, just the fact that he's a college student who is being forced to live at home by his parents. Like, he's an adult. He should be able to choose where to live. And there's no reason that he shouldn't be living on campus or with Layla, you know?
Right.
Just, he's a grown-ass man. There's no reason that his parents should be treating him like this, except they're like, well, we can't trust you with your own money and your own whatever.
I'm so excited to get it. I've been thinking about his family a lot.
They're gonna get their comeuppance later.
They fucking better.
I'm sure they will. That said, I think he blames himself so much for Noah that he's putting himself through this because either he doesn't believe, like he maybe believes on some level they're correct, he shouldn't be on his own. But then also maybe it's like sort of like him trying to repay this horrible debt for like what he thinks he did in the past. Like he's holding himself accountable for what happened. So he's staying with this awful family because he thinks it's what he has to do.
That's so true.
Ethically.
I was also thinking like his like trying to be a nice person and trying to help everybody is like his own version. He's also trying to do contrition.
Yeah.
But I didn't even
absolutely.
But I didn't even think about like staying with his family is also a way of like he's not just mollifying them because they control him. He's also like trying to be.
No, he 100% blames himself for Noah's death. I think that's even like said outright. Like, he thinks it's his fault Noah is dead. And
one thing, because when we first meet his family and see how homophobic they are, I'm like, I kept having to remind myself, like, I know it's 2007, but this still seems like every single time they see him. But then once you find out that gay sex led to Noah dying, it's like, oh, it makes sense why they were trying to hurt him so often.
Yeah, they really are trying to like dig in on that. And you're right that it's not just him wanting his family's approval, it's like he is trying to do penance to some extent.
I mean, there's still, like, it's not like that was the start of the homophobia. Like, I'm pretty sure the Leo car deal happened before Noah died.
That's right.
Like, that because that was the end of his high school. Like
yes.
Said. So that was before everything happened, and they were still homophobic. But this really, this allowed them to dig in their heels.
Yeah.
And him to, like, not, like, he rolled over and just accepted it because he was like, okay, I have, like, not that they're right, but I need to have penance for this.
Right.
Yeah, like the Noah incident is giving them an excuse to do all these terrible things to him.
And I think they're also kind of doing these terrible things to him because they need to blame him for Noah because they can't.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. God. I was thinking, this is, we don't have to get into this, but I was thinking like, damn, what would this is one of the things I dread is causing the death of one of my siblings. I'm just like, damn. And that would be fucked up. And I think if I killed one of my siblings, my parents wouldn't be like this. But I think if one of them killed me, they would. And if one of them killed the other one, I don't know. So that's not really.
I feel what I was doing was I was imagining myself in Jeremy's position. Like if I was even like indirectly responsible for my brother or sister dying, I don't know how I live with myself.
Right.
That would be the worst possible feeling.
Yeah.
I wasn't putting myself in either Jeremy or Noah's position. You guys are weird.
It's because you can't kill Otto. He can't die.
No, when I first watched Hereditary, that really got to me. That really fucked me up. I was like, I
was thinking like the parallels between this and Hereditary are,
so the sibling dies,
and maybe Jeremy is possessed by a demon.
Holy shit, that's gonna be the third book.
That's the third book is Jeremy's exorcism. Jean uses the power of Christ to exorcise.
From
Renee shows up too. Jean become exorcist.
Bingo! We need to make the next bingo card immediately.
Oh boy!
Oh my God,
and Jean like burns all of the notebooks that he has that were disgraced by the Ravens, and that's what causes someone to burn in the.
Right.
It's been a while since I saw Hereditary.
That
happens though.
Wow.
That movie fucked me up.
It's a messed up movie. That was also something I was thinking about, was that like I was like, okay, if Jeremy's stepdad and step-grandpa are so influential, Noah's death would have been in the news. Why is nobody talking about this? And then it was like, oh no, it was in the news. Jean just didn't hear about it because he wasn't focused on anything.
I think at one point, Jeremy, when he is explaining, it's Cody who is explaining Noah's death to Jean, he mentions that the official story is that Noah was like leaning out over the railing to take a picture or something, and they covered up the suicide aspect.
And they mentioned that, like, this was something that was common, like, not common knowledge, but, like, it was something that people knew about.
Right.
Jean just was, like, he was too busy thinking about how attractive Jeremy was instead of looking at the details.
Yes.
And he wasn't really involved with the public. Like, he just was looking at the stats.
Yes, and he didn't want to read all that.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
That's, because he was still,
Right.
So that was, like, it wasn't a plot hole, it's just something I was wondering about. But, like, no, people knew about this.
Yes. Jeremy takes Jean to his exposure therapy appointment, which was suggested by Betsy. And I actually love that we don't get to see that, because I feel like we've gotten so many, like, Betsy scenes in the first trilogy. Like, I kept expecting a scene to show up that was, like, Jean talking to Betsy, and we would actually, like, get to see their, therapy sessions. But then we didn't. We just skipped over that, and we kind of, glossed over the fact that that's kind of happening in the background. But I like that. I'm, like, glad that we don't have to sit through a therapy session with Jean.
That's fair. I feel like a lot of his breakthroughs happen outside of the therapy sessions.
Yeah.
Something in general that I think this book does a lot better than the last one is the balance between POV chapters of Jean and Jeremy.
Yes.
The last one, the Sunshine Court, very Jean-centric.
Yes.
There's not nearly as many
page
counts of Jeremy's perspective compared to Jean's. This one is much better at flip-flopping between them. We don't really get anything from Jeremy in the last book. Like, we get hints of his family, but most of the time, even when he is narrating, he's narrating about Jean.
Yes, and he never reveals any of his
He
own
never
backstory
reveals
in the
anything.
narration. I was thinking about this, though, because I think about the first trilogy. I think the first book is, like, Neil's book, and the second book is Andrew's book, and the third book is them together.
Yeah.
And I think that this was, like, the Jeremy book. Like,
Ooh.
this was, like, us. So the Sunshine Court is, like, Jean getting out of the nest, acclimating to real life, etc. That's us, like, learning all about Jean's psyche. And then this is the Jeremy book where we find out everything where Jeremy's coming from. And that is, like, such a parallel to, like, how we learn all about Andrew's backstory in Raven King.
You're so right.
But we also get a lot of good insight into Jean. Like, we get his breakthrough with Coach Riemann later on, which we'll get to. But, like, it's not like it's very one-sided like the last one is. It does very good at evening it out.
Yes, but I also think that a lot of Jean's growth in this book is, like, more tied to Jeremy. I don't know how to explain it. I just, like, thought, like, this is the Jeremy book, and I really love that.
That's what I said. In general, we get a lot more of Jeremy in this, which we were desperately needing.
Yes. Chapter 12, only, like, halfway through the book. We don't have to do the entire book tonight. I was just thinking we could cut it off at some point and do, like, a part 2 later if we wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess we should probably stop soon.
We can end on this then, because then the next part after this is that's when we get to the banquet. We can save the banquet for part 2.
Oh, good idea.
Okay, so, but chapter 12 is Jeremy's perspective, and they basically, like, it's just pottery class. That's the chapter. It's
Which I was like, we're spending ample time on pottery class.
Dude, I was
this is
excited.
rom-com at its peak. My goodness.
So good. I was predicting that Jeremy would be bad at it and Jean would be, like, surprisingly good at it, and that's basically what happened, and I'm, like, living for it. There's also a bit where the reporters are, like, the address of Jean's house has gotten leaked, and the reporters are showing up on campus as well and, like, ambushing him.
We never get that revealed either, I just realized.
Someone pointed out that they think Bryson leaked the address.
It's very possible.
And I buy that.
I buy that.
I hadn't considered that, but I think that
we
that's
never get confirmation that it's Bryson. Because it could be a lot of people, but Bryson's the most likely suspect.
Yeah, hold on.
But we also
I
just don't know.
Because they sent in an ask.
Oh, sweet.
On Tumblr earlier today, I said that we would be recording this episode tonight and that people should send in their, like, opinions and questions and all that. And we got a ton of responses, very long responses too. And I haven't actually gotten the chance to, like, read through all of them. So we might end up saving these for part 2 of our Golden Raven stuff as well. Oh, it was anonymous. An anonymous ask said Bryson totally slipped Layla's address. And as soon as I read that, I was like, yeah,
it makes sense.
That makes so much sense to me.
It was Bark Bark. He was like, I've had just about enough of this Frenchman shoving me behind fridges and under beds.
Yes.
Which one of us is really the dog?
That's a whole other the dog motif.
Oh yeah, wait.
I was trying to like go through and track all of the similarity. Like every time the narration calls Jean like an animal, or says that he is dog-like, or he talks about being on a leash. There's a lot of that in the first series as well.
And also just Jean's casual thing where he's like, we would get rid of you like an unwanted dog that's hit by a car. And I'm like, hang on, Jean. That's not really what you usually do with a dog you don't want.
I figured that the metaphor there was that like a stray dog would get hit by a car.
But I also think it's in character for Jean to be like, oh, well, this dog is no longer of use to me. He's no longer of use to anybody then. Might as well kill it.
Yeah, that's like such a Raven.
It's a very...
Raven mindset.
Yeah.
Like that's what his parents did. Like, oh, we don't like your dog anymore. Guess what? It's traumatized.
Sounds like some bullshit they pull, right?
They did sell him.
The cat, and also casually, his mom just like assassinated his first captain and her entire.
Like that's why. Was in the narration. I was like, holy fuck! Like that was just funny to me. I'm like, that felt comedic.
Are there any good parents? We meet Renee's mom,
David, Coach Wymack.
Coach Wymack.
Except for like he keeps giving his alcoholic son more alcohol.
He didn't. In his defense, he didn't know it was his son.
That's true.
But he thought he was just giving alcohol to an underage kid.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I guess Renee's mom is like...
Renee's mom is the pinnacle of parenthood.
Isn't Dan's mom okay? Or wait.
No,
because she was like, she went along with Andrew's deal to...
No, that's Matt's mom.
Oh, that's Matt's mom.
But that was like supposed to be okay. That was like retconned into like, no, it was good.
Dude, I can't wait till we get to that part. And like, yeah.
You're still like, what, on like chapter 4A?
Yeah, we haven't even gotten through chapter 4. And then
Jesus.
we have the rest of chapter 4, and then we have the Wymack POV bonus chapter.
Oh, yes.
From the Rainbow Crate special editions. And then we get to go to chapter 5. It's going to be so long.
And then only 3.5 more books till we get here.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know, just a couple years. I'm like...
And these books keep getting longer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the first book is quite short compared to the other ones.
That's true. Yeah.
This one I didn't have a page count since it was online digitally, but like this was longer than Sunshine Court.
Sakovich said yes. Sakovich said that Sunshine Court was like around 100,000 words, and then
this one was 150.
Yeah, Sakovich said this one was 150 and Sunshine Court was 100.
I was never good at translating word count to page count, but like okay, significantly longer.
I only know based on like fanfic.
Oh, nice.
Like I will be able to see like, oh, a 50k fic, like yeah, that's kind of like an investment.
Mm-hmm.
See, I know from essays.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, a page is usually 250 words.
Right.
I go by the NaNoWriMo standards. I'm like, 50k is like a kind of a novel.
Yeah.
I was trying to explain to my mom because I was at my parents' house like, yeah, I got to download this book so I can read it for my friends. And I said it's 150,000 words, and she's like, how long is that? I was trying to explain.
Yeah, I can't think of things in terms of pages. I can only think in terms of word count.
Oh, wow, that's wild.
I can only think of pages. I can't do word counts.
I can do either. I'm bisexual.
With that, let's call it here. This will be part 1 of our Golden Raven reactions.
Yes.
And then part 2, we can get into the banquet. We can get into Jeremy's backstory.
Orgy.
Don't forget about the cocaine.
Oh, shit.
Cocaine.
That part really surprised me. I was like not expecting the cocaine.
People on Tumblr were predicting that. I was like,
I mean, like they got like fictional drugs. I thought they would do something like that, but nope, just coke.
Yeah, they mentioned cracker dust at one point. And
that's a blast from the past.
Wow, throwback.
Specifically, they were like, this party will have cocaine, crackers, this, and I'm like, oh, there's crackers?
That's like saying we're going to have root beer, juice, 40 proof. Like...
Juice party.
Juice party. Oh, yeah, you guys used to do that,
We
right?
used to have juice parties
in
college because we didn't want to say that we were drinking alcohol. We would say that we were drinking juice.
That's great.
I was drinking juice. That reminds me in high school, I would play water pong.
That's great.
It was like beer pong, but my friend Andrew and I would just fill up little Dixie cups with water.
That's fucking hilarious.
That's great. Would you actually drink the water, too?
Yeah.
That's great. Staying hydrated.
That's what John needs. Yeah, so I guess we will get to everyone who sent in asks. We'll get to that in part 2. We'll get to the whole rest of the book. Maybe we'll even talk about like book 3 predictions.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So far we have Exorcism for Jeremy.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping for a car bomb still.
Yeah, holding out for the car bomb.
We still have Kevin's Raven car.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Why did he sell that? I can't remember what
I think he still has it.
Yeah, I don't think he said what he did with it.
He made it into like a race car bed.
Oh my god, we have the Foxes versus Ravens game to
yes.
go
over. God, that's gonna be a lot.
Someone asked on Tumblr what scene is living in your head rent free. That's what I said is the Foxes versus Ravens game.
What did I say for that?
For me, I think it's just the line where they say that one time the Ravens had papaya, but John was unconscious.
Yes, I highlighted that part. It said like they said that they had papaya one time, but Jean was unconscious that day. Like that was heartbreaking.
To me, for me, like I know it's heartbreaking, but it was also just the way it was phrased was so funny.
Yeah.
Like who told him? Was the next day he was talking to Zayn and Zayn was like, "Damn, that papaya yesterday was so good," and John was like, "What papaya?" And Zayn was like, "Oh shit, how's your concussion, by the way?"
Yeah, God.
There are a lot of good Jean Cat moments that I really liked that I keep thinking about.
We get to talk about the Zayn fight.
Oh, God.
Oh, we get to talk about Riemann Gay.
Yes.
Oh my god, there's so much still left in this book.
Literally, we are almost at 2 hours for the first half of this book.
Yeah.
That's
I kind of expected this.
Yeah, you know what? That's fair.
I mean, you had 4 hours for 3.5 chapters.
Yeah. God. So, yeah. Keep sending us your Golden Raven thoughts on Tumblr or Instagram. We are the Foxhole Cast on both of those. You can also comment on YouTube. We are the Foxhole Cast on YouTube. You can find all of these links and more at thefoxholecast.card.co. Until next time, thanks for listening. Have a winning day.